morning, I'm Dilip, Thakore, editor of Educationworld.
Good morning, I'm Summiya, Yasmeen, managing editor.
A hangover of our socialist past, which was heavily criticized, by the way, in the economic survey this year as an aberration, is that there's a inbuilt bias within officialdom of against private initiatives in education. This is most manifested in the
vilification of India's private budget schools.
Private budget schools are affordable schools promoted by private entrepreneurs for low-income households. Section 19 of the RTE Act, in fact, outlaws a large number of BPS, that's budget private schools, by prescribing infrastructure norms which are very difficult for them to observe. In fact, they're very difficult for the government schools to observe as well, because government schools are exempted from provisions of Section 19, which is a gross injustice.
According to the Center for Civil Society, there are an estimated 400,000 budget private schools in India, which enroll a staggering 60 million children countrywide. And essentially, budget private schools provide children and households from low-income households an alternative to dysfunctional government schools.
And these are people who work in the organized sector of industry, and also they're clerks from clerical families, and organized sector workers who work in companies.
Organized as well as unorganized sector also.
Yes, and these are mainly for aspirational households. So unfortunately, they are being heavily discriminated against in official policy. We in Educationworld, we are not in favor of this discrimination. In fact, we are dead against it. So therefore, we believe that they provide a very valuable service to the public, and particularly people from low-income households who want their children to learn English, which is the language of the courts, business and administration, and also the language of communication around the country. So therefore, in this month's Educationworld, we've, for the first time ever, ranked India's best 300 or so
budget private schools.
Yes, because they're not so well known, we can't rank more, although there are 400,000 of them. But the rules of ranking are that if any the sample respondents don't know, even if 25 of them don't know the name of that school, they're not included in the rankings.
Just to explain a little bit about the methodology, as usual, we've gone ahead with our trusted partner, the Delhi-based Center for Forecasting and Research, which has done a field survey wherein 2,458 parents with at least one child enrolled in a budget private school, principals, teachers and educators have been interviewed across the country, and they have ranked budget private schools, these 300 budget private schools, across 11 parameters including value for money, academic reputation, co-curricular education, competence of faculty, etc.
And the results of that ranking are published in our March issue.
Yes.
February issue, sorry.
And in fact, when you read this cover story, you'll also, like us, be full of admiration of stories of,
these brave
entrepreneurs who are fighting against government discrimination and government regulation to educate, to provide, at least they're attempting to provide high quality education to a large number of India's children.
Who want a better education than is provided by government schools.
Yes.
And unfortunately, they don't get bank loans, they're proscribed by legislation, and they're heavily discriminated against.
And some schools whom we've interviewed and quoted offer education at as less than as 9,500 rupees per year.
And they span, in fact, from 9,000 rupees per year to 36,000 rupees a year, which people are ready and willing to pay.
Yeah.
So we suggest you read about this unique phenomenon known as budget private schools in our latest issues, and learn as to which are the best among them, and learn about the entrepreneurial spirit of the people who promoted them.
Yes, and also in this February issue, we've got reports on our 10th Early Childhood Education National Conference, which was a huge success. It was attended by over 400 delegates from across the country, from over 70 cities. We had very interesting keynote addresses, as well as the top ranked schools in the Educationworld India preschool rankings, which were published in December, were awarded. So we've got a pictorial essay as well as a report on the conference. I highly recommend you read that.
Yes, indeed. There's a lot to read in this issue of Education World.
Yes. And before we sign off, as usual, a very interesting cover story in ParentsWorld, which examines a very 21st century phenomenon, that of single parenting. According to a recently released report of the United Nations, the number of one-parent households, most of whom are headed by women, have almost doubled. In 2015, India had only 4.5% of all households were single-parent households. Today, in 2019-20, we have 7.5 households. So this is a growing phenomenon. In this cover story, we examine and we throw a searchlight on the unique trials and tribulations of single parenting, and how best we offer some advice on how best single parents can nurture and develop confident and happy children.
And how indeed we all should support them,
Yes,
rather than judge them.
Don't judge, enable single parents.
Just before we sign off, I think we should mention that on February 26th, we are felicitating and awarding India's top-ranked budget private schools, of which I spoke about earlier. And that's happening in Bombay. And we advise and invite anybody who's interested in this to register on our website. That's www.educationworld.in. Well, thank you.
Thank you.